how our community, Black and brown communities, think about estate planning and why they need to get serious about this, whether they have multiple assets or they're renting an apartment.
I get really frustrated when it comes to the concept of minorities and estate planning because I've read research, I've looked at the stats. I don't understand what our hang up is in moving forward with estate planning, because when you look at the numbers, it's staggering. Like, literally over 50% of non-minorities have some form of estate planning done. 77% of minorities said that they have zero.
Wow.
And so when you think about closing the generational wealth gap, it starts with estate planning. But more important than just estate planning, it really, really comes with passing down knowledge. I think we got into a season where more minorities were hitting middle class, more minorities were hitting that number 1%. But I don't think we did a good job of going back and actually teaching what that succession looked like. Instead, we just started leaving assets as we could because it was the first time in generations that we had any assets to leave in the first place. And because that was a miss, it didn't get properly transferred from one generation to the next, because a lot of minorities either don't want to face the conversation, they think that they don't have enough assets to even start estate planning, or shrug, mom and them gonna get it anyway, so why do the hard work? But what they don't understand is that you're costing your estate money by not doing any type of preparations, because you then have to, well, not you particularly, but your estate has to pay probate fees to go through the process of handling your estate. And it's even harder if there's no estate planning done whatsoever. So even though a will has to go through the probate process, it's going to be a lot quicker and a lower cost as opposed to somebody who dies what they like to call interstate and they have nothing done.
Okay, wait. You're too technical.
Okay.
Let's make it really simple.
Really simple
for folks who don't have any assets. They don't have a home. They might have a car. They don't have any kids.
If you are literally out in this world, it's me, fi me, and your car Daisy. If you know that your little cousin has been working super hard, or your brother is going to be in high school soon, you can literally get a will drafted that literally just outlines that my car Daisy is going to my niece. My car Daisy is going to my brother, because if something happens to you and you have nothing in writing, if your parents are still living, they automatically get your estate, not your siblings, not your cousin that you've helped raise, or your niece. It literally goes to the next surviving family member. So I always tell people, don't just watch celebrity news, start taking lessons from it that you want to implement in your own life. And so one of the things I was talking to a colleague about recently is the issue with Takeoff. We're talking about an individual who has a ton of assets, who has a ton of IP assets as well through his music catalog, and had zero estate planning done. He was estranged from his father, had never really even had a conversation with his father. But because he has passed away, there was nothing in writing to his estate. And even though he has a whole song that he was leaving everything to his mom anyways, that's not admissible in court. They can use it as character, but they can't use it as a determinative fact as it relates to estate planning and it being drafted. And so his mom and dad have been in court arguing over his estate. And it's the saddest thing in the world. They should be grieving their son and they're fighting over assets. So whether you have your car Daisy or you have Grammy award winning music catalog that you're thinking about protecting, you still want to sit down and draft. At basic level, every single one of us needs to have a will. Now, if we want to get a little bit more jazzy and we have a business or we have some IP or we have homes or we have children, then we want to start talking about moving into getting a trust established. And then if you're a serial entrepreneur or a serial business person, or, you know, you're killing it on the corporate ladder, there's literally different methods that we can craft for you, but don't wait until it's too late. If COVID taught us nothing at all, I hope it taught us that time is precious and life can be really fragile. And so you want to make sure that before anything happens, you are protected. So please, you guys, if you listen to nothing else, have a will drafted, please.
Okay, one quick clarifying point here.
Mm-hmm.
What is the difference between a living will and a will?
We like to use the term living trust because so many people get confused by living will. And so basically what a will is it doesn't kick in or key until you have actually transitioned from this earth. But a living trust, there's certain things that trigger during your lifetime.
Okay.
So in your living trust, you're going to have a medical directive, which is going to speak to if something happens and you want to put a special person in play. This is really, really key if you want a power of attorney. So say, for example, what happened with a lot of business owners during COVID is that if they didn't have a POA done, they might have, and they were hospitalized for COVID, they didn't have anything in writing to be able to have anybody do any type of business moves on their behalf while they were ill. And so having those things in place will allow your business to keep functioning or your children to be taken care of. Like it's such a safe all. It's like driving in a car without a seatbelt, like craziness.
Right. Woo! I got tons of questions for this, but this might need to be a whole nother episode. So y'all, if you want somebody to come back, email us, bankingatcultura@gmail.com. Put it in the show notes so that we can have you back, because I feel like estate planning is like a whole nother episode.
It's a beast
that we need to like get the nitty gritty on. But I really appreciate you being on. Tell the people where they can hire you.
Yes.
And where they can find you.
Yes. I'm on all social media platforms at attorney Domonique Price. You can find me on my website, gopricelaw.com, or on TikTok, your legal bestie here.
Your legal bestie here.
Yeah,
that's the name here. Your legal bestie like here. Okay.
That would be a whole nother part 3. If you looked at my eyes and I got nervous as I got ready to say it, there's a whole trademark dispute as I talk right now. So I'm not immune to having issues of people biting or stealing or saying they've used something that I've said. Like, it happens to everybody, which is why it's so critical that you are protected.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. Well, thank you so much for being on Banking a Cultura and sharing your thought leadership. I hope you guys got tons and tons of knowledge. You heard me mention this. Listen, we have an email address, bankingoncultura@gmail.com. That email address is for you to give us your feedback, ask your questions. We want to hear from you guys, okay? So email us. Now you can get directly to us, to me. My team is reading those emails, okay? Also, if you love today's episode, we want to hear that feedback from you. So make sure to leave it in the show notes on the YouTube streets, or if you're listening, tuning in, whatever platform you're tuning in from. And guys, I appreciate you so much for tuning in, and I will see you on the next episode. Ciao!